Hello, welcome in. Get out the cold. Remember, shoes off at the front door. Get some snacks and come take a seat and join us here in the Music Shack with both
Ray
and Jack. And we're back with part 2 of our TTPD reaction, breakdown, deep dive. And we're going on to the anthology edition. Which was dropped at 2 a.m. after the drop of TTPD. If you want to see our thoughts on the initial album, or the part 1 of the album, check out last week's episode. And we kind of just spoke for probably way too long, but it's fine. We had I think it was an interesting conversation around the songs, the production choices, the lyrics, and the references and everything, and how we actually felt the whole album the whole part of the album was as a whole, and kind of how it how we felt that part could have been not improved, but how we seen that, and how we would maybe have loved to have seen it be done in a certain way, if it was to be done again or a different way. But this time we're doing the anthology edition, so we probably will just get into the Black Dog, unless Ray has any anthology information or just any thoughts about it initially before we go into it.
No. So yeah, the anthology is the second half of this album. It's obviously 31 tracks. We'll talk about it as we get into the songs, but to me, overall, the album kind of tells a story, and then I think the first half feels like the album, and the second half, the songs are very, very good. But if you look at it as a second album, it doesn't feel as much of an album as the first half did, in terms of bringing you into a moment and telling you a story. But when you look at the whole 31 tracks, I think you can tell these songs were written, in between the time of those 31 of the first 16, and kind of woven into each other in a certain way. So when you look at the whole thing, you really get the full picture. So I know a lot of people have been talking this online, but I personally would think of the anthology as an additional, however many it is, 15 vault tracks, instead of a second album. Or just think of the whole Tortured Poets, all 31 tracks, as one album. But I don't think looking at them as two albums is the way that I see it, because my review for it will be very different if I were to look at it that way. So I'm just going to preface with that, especially when we talk about it at the end and we give our rating. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, that's I genuinely remember listening to this, and it was there was such a cohesive sort of plan and style with the first part, and you could kind of tell what was going on, and maybe how the timeline of things was, and then understanding that obviously was to replicate how you actually feel after a heartbreaking stuff, and it does it really well. And then you came into these tracks and you're okay, where does this play into it? Because then there's some stuff about things that happened years and years ago, and it's how is this playing into it? But that was kind of what threw me off initially, and I think first listen is why I was so taken back, and maybe my feelings towards the whole album were a wee bit more skewed. But then after kind of coming at it and being okay, well, this is how to look at it, and I think it's definitely my views on it have actually completely swapped. So it's
yeah, I there's definitely some really, really great standout tracks on this, so we'll just get into it. But when the anthology first came out, I was super overwhelmed, because I already felt I was only just starting to absorb the first half, and then I was oh, I want to go to bed, but I have so many more tracks to listen to. And my initial theory, we had talked about on the podcast, was that there was going to be a second album, but it was going to come out 2 weeks later instead of 2 hours later. And I honestly wish that was the case, because I think the tracks on the first half and the second half would have both got their moment if there was more time in the middle, because there's some incredible tracks on the first half and there are some incredible tracks on the second half. And I think it would have been great if they both had their moment, because the public cannot absorb 31 tracks just like that, you know?
Especially when they have so much meaning behind them. Like, I genuinely am not...
Exactly.
I agree with what you said. Like, there was so much to the first that it's, like, still to this day is, like, finding stuff out. Like, that, like, chocolate bar, how it's, like, there's 7... what was it, like, 7
bars in
bars.
Like, this 1975 song Chocolate. Yeah
That's crazy. Like, sorry to cut you off, but it is true. Like, that's kind of how it felt.
Yeah. Anyway, we should get into it so that we don't talk for 7 hours like we did last time. The first track is The Black Dog. So this is one that was actually on one of the vinyl variants. It's produced by Jack. There's lots of speculation about whether this would be about, like, mental illness or a bar, because, like, those are the two things that this is known as. And, like, this song is super relatable. Like, this is one of my favorite songs on the album. I first of all, the production on this is, like, impeccable. The parts where she goes, like, old habits die screaming, and, like, it, like, hits. Yep. It amazing. And then, like, the part where she talks about, like, you know, you forgot to turn your location off, and I'm sitting here heartbroken watching you walk into a bar that I guess they used to go to together, and how, like, she's making up this story in her head about what's going on at this bar that he's in, and, like, that is so relatable. Like, I feel like everybody goes through that, whether it's, like, with a, like, relationship or, like, a best friend breakup or whatever, where the person forgets to turn their location off and you're just, like, sitting there, like, heartbroken. It's such an incredibly relatable concept and so good.
Yeah. Because there was that, because the Black Dog Institute is like a non-profit for, like, treatment and like for, like, prevention and everything of, like, depression, anxiety and stuff. So, and then it was the whole, like peace sign, like, that's kind of their logo. So it was, like, really coming into this is, like, yeah, is it going to be, like, about, like, a bar or like that sort of thing, and I think just being paired with, like, the Black Dog's on. Is it on the black, like, variation? Yeah. So, like, that being paired with, obviously, like, the whole depression side of things is like, kind of, I guess, like, kind of what layered it on. But the production on this is, like, it's the layering of, like, when it's screaming, like, it's such a good parallel to the emotion that's kind of being, like, given off, and it's the way that, like, it echoes. It's like the whole layering, like, it all layers up so well, and then it, like, echoes off after the screaming, like, after obviously the parts of the screaming. It's stunning. I think, like, I've seen some negative things about this track in terms of how it makes Taylor come off like a stalker, which is crazy, because we've all been here, and I'm like, you literally said it, because it's true. Like, we have all been there, and it's not in that way. It's that whole thing of, like, you don't want them to be, like, you don't want them to be, like, with someone, whatever, right? When you first it first happens, and, like, that's, you're just looking and, like please don't be, like, doing something with somebody, like, or things like that. And, like, it happens all the fucking time, and it's, like, such a dumb joke, but I think this is one of these things that obviously in a normal person's life is so normal, and it's so Taylor is normal,
and
but,
the fact that Taylor does that as, like, a billionaire, and, like, they just have their locations on their phone, and she's, like, a pop star, but she's still looking at his phone, is, like, it makes you feel so much better, like.
Makes, like, it also, like, adds that human thing back in again. Like, she is human, so it's like she genuinely, like, does the same as we do, and there's not too much I feel about this. Like, there is a couple lyrics that are, like, that are good, like, where you're making fun of me with some esoteric joke, which is something is described as esoteric. It is, like, usually only understood by people of, like, a special or specific interest, like, not so, like, a joke that you were only you were in on. And then there's, like, the whole starting line stuff I'm going to do this again as I done it on the last one. There is a couple like references and stuff that could be linked. If not, then they're not. But Matty performed this cover on the 13th of March, or performed a cover of the starting line, The Best of Me, and then before singing, he said, shout out to the people in their 30s, metaphor. And then somebody said it's a metaphor for something. But yeah, so I don't know if that's linked in any way, but it's also like, again, we don't know, we're not really talking about the music if we can avoid it, but I'm just going to bring up these 1975 stuff. Just, I think there's a lot through the album, and I've done it last half as well, but yeah, it's really good. It's a really good like intro track if you're going to put it onto something that's like, because it kind of can be seen as like an intro track because it's like a second part to something that drops later, and I think it does a good job at like, again, bringing the listener into this side of things, and there's just like a bunch of like lyricism in here that's really cool, and sonically it's just beautiful.
I think that's pretty much all there's to say about this. It's a good way to start the next part of the album. It's a beautiful sound. It took me a long time to get this track. I was kind of just like listening to it. I was like, oh, it sounds nice, but I didn't really get into the meat of it for a long time, and I think that was just because of the volume, not because the song is hard to understand. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to the next track, which is I'm Gonna Get You Back, which is a vibe. First of all, like, this song is incredible. I don't like, I'm like a sucker for upbeat tracks, like, you know that about me.
Yeah.
And I also love songs like LOML that will like tear my heart out. But this song gives like badass in like a little bit of a heartbroken way, which is like so fun. It's just super, super catchy. Some of my best, like my favorite lyrics are on this track, like pick your poison, babe, I'm poison either way. Like, that is such a badass thing to say. Or like, yeah, or even just like the meta-ness of like, oh, air is fading into gray, like all of that kind of stuff that she's like saying in this track is like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, like, I think we're gonna have this a lot with the tracks. Like, there's a lot to them, but there's also like, and there's like amazing lyricism in them, but like this whole side of the stuff is like really, it's not sonically different, there's just a lot more adding on this side of things. But like the writing,
this is Jack, this specific
yeah, like, but just in
Jack.
general, like these two are Jack, or the Black Dog, and I'm Gonna Get You Back are Jack, and then there's a couple down the line as well. But like, I think there's not as much to dive into with these songs on these tracks, so I think that's what we're gonna see constantly. It's just like, oh, they sound amazing sonically, and there's like some amazing like lyrics and meta lyrics and stuff. But yeah, I'm Gonna Get You Back, having no spaces, could be a reference to Falling for You, which is a 1975 thing again.
Oh yeah,
so
this song is definitely about Maddie. Like, I can't see it about being about Joe, so it has to be about Maddie.
Yeah, and like like it's also like, I think this is a good way of being like, well, this is who it's about, right? If it's gonna be, if she's gonna do that, which she does kind of do a couple times on this side of the tracks, on the side of the list. But
yeah,
it's also, I've seen comparisons to like how this type of song has been done before a million ways, and especially done recently with like Olivia's Get Him Back and stuff, which is, again, like, I pick out these things because it's dumb, because I don't think this would be said about anybody else, because
no,
everything's been sung about in every single different way.
It's because everyone loves to compare to Olivia, but like everything has been sung about. You're so right. Like, you can think of another track on Guts and it's probably been sung about by Taylor. Like, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I'm just saying, like, that probably does exist. And like, these are concepts like we talked about with the Black Dog. Like, you could maybe compare like the experience in the Black Dog song to like Deja Vu, but they're not like completely directly related, but they're the same concept at the end of the day. Like, you're envying your old partner potentially being with somebody else and doing the things that you used to do, and this song is like, yeah, similar to Getting Back. I'm not like saying like, oh, they're all the same songs, but like I'm trying to say is that like this is a concept that it's not like the most creative out there concept that like nobody should have ever thought of other than Olivia, because who cares? And it's done in a completely different way. The sound is completely different between the two songs. The lyricism is completely different. Like everything is different. So I don't like I think that you're really grasping for straws if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I it's dumb. There's I really like how the sort of sonically it parallels the lyric, like the title track name, because like I'm gonna get you back, no spaces is like not really exerted, and it's like with this she's like singing quite like lightly, and not lightly, but it's like there's not a lot behind her voice, like she's kind of just, it's not raspy, but it's like there's not like much elevation there, which I think fits really well, and it also goes along really well with like the synth like doom, I can't even do it off the top of my head, but like the synth like done thing and like sound in the background.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Thanks, because I didn't make it sound very obvious. But the again, Gonna Smash Up Your Bike, I haven't decided yet. Is like obviously the Falling for You track. Is the song
It's
that he sang to her
hilarious.
in 2014. Where like the lyric kind of I think is we broke all the pieces but still want to play the game. In the music video, it's like Matty's constantly throws the pieces of chess, leaving just the family there while marriage and kids videos play on the TV, which again we know the whole like marriage and stuff side of things on especially on this album, and I think that could also be something that's like there. But I also seen about the line about the Aston Martin that you steered it straight into the ditch and then ran and hid. Remember that driver? Like maybe after the Joe things happened, remember that Aston Martin driver that kept saying that they were dating?
No.
Do you not remember that? So there was this driver called Alonso, whatever, I don't know the
Oh,
last name.
yeah.
And they kept saying that they two were dating, like Taylor and him, and them were dating. So a lot of people have been like, is this Aston Martin not dig, but like comment about about that situation.
It easily could be. Like I totally believe that it
so
was.
That's it, because that kept coming up, and we were like, what is this guy? What's this guy talking about? Because it was just the most random thing ever. But I don't know. It was just a drive back to that. That
At the
comment,
time, definitely did.
Yeah. Honestly, what's next? The albatross.
Okay. The albatross. Do you want to talk about that first? Because I talked about the other two first.
Yeah. So this one, for a lot of these songs coming up, because Aaron's behind them, I really love the Pandemic albums, the Pandemic Sister albums, Folklore and Evermore. A lot of people don't know Evermore, so it's okay. But Evermore is an album that's there. Don't forget it. But it's there's a lot of like, obviously Aaron worked heavily on those, and possibly been like genuinely the biggest contributing factor. I can't remember the producer list going back in my head. But it does give off very folklore vibes. A lot of the tracks do on this side, because of Aaron behind them. I just think this song gives me like a really old timely vibe, like not even so much folklore, but it's like this is like it just does give me like 1800s. I don't know, like if there's ever a vibe of like old timey, this would be it. And the whole like there is so much behind these lyrics and tracks, and so much lyrics and everything. Wise men once said, "Wild winds are deaf to the candle." A fascination of romantic poets with the concept of sublime, firstly popularized in garden theory. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just reading through this note that I copied. Summarized, in the spirits of romantics, Swift likens the wild wind to women like herself as an untamable force of nature, inspiring both fear and beauty. It is this untamable I cannot speak today. Force that so easily blows out the flame of the candle, a man-made object effortlessly extinguished by the power of natural wind. The candle here, in the words of the wise men, represent men who should be wary of unruly women, for they will be their downfall. And then Rose by Any Other Name is a scandal. In Act 2, Scene 2, Romeo and Juliet. At night on her balcony after Romeo, Juliet says to herself, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." The lyric ultimately implies that both the name of something and referring to something by a different name cannot change how it is received. A name can make something more or less positive or more or less negative. You can refer to a scandal by any other name to try and make it sound better or worse than it is, but it's still a scandal. And then the whole albatross stuff. An albatross is a large seabird, obviously, that spends 6 years without touching the land. And a lot of like things that it's not like folk tales, but it's like a lot of like like sailors and stuff have this like thing. So I crossed my thoughtless heart, spread my wings like a parachute. I'm the albatross. I swept in at rescue. So there was a story of a mariner shooting an albatross he encounters. Big mistake. For the few following nights, sea monsters emerge, and the ocean wreaks havoc on the ship. After a long-winded series of events, crew member dies. Mariner wears the dead albatross around his neck. And it's pretty much just saying like, I think she's referring it to like, if she was to come down, like, so the albatross could be in reference to this, obviously, the 6-year relationship that was had. But it's also kind of like, oh, you kind of, if it's to be referred to that relationship, it's like, oh, your energy and the way you felt about me shot me down, and this is how I'm going to react, and like this is going to, like I'm going to do something, like I'm going to like do the eras and do everything like this, like out of like, not like spite, but and like retaliation against it. But it's yeah, and then it's like 2 graves, 1 gun, killing an albatross. Like that's the earlier message, but like killing albatross is calling things off, or killing Taylor in like quotations, something that the ex will come to regret, as he will beg for forgiveness someday, like just like the mariner. So like there's a lot.
This song is like super super metaphorical, and you touched on so many of the points. It was another one of the songs that took me a while to get, I think, because it's lyrically so metaphorical that like just listening to it, I was just like, what is she talking about? Like what? So I really had to like spend time thinking like, what does she mean? And like, but like I feel like you touched on a lot of the points. I love the sound in this track as well. Like you said, it's kind of folklore-y. It's great. You pretty much talked about everything. So I think it's fine. I think that like covers the albatross. I think like the albatross is definitely a really good song. Maybe not like my favorite, but it's good. It's up there for sure. The next song is Chloe or Sam or Sophia, or it's like a tongue twister. Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. I can say words. So, and Taylor sings it, so I don't know. You know.
Is it Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus or Taylor? Or Aaron? Who knows?
But this song is really good. It's essentially about like Taylor like watching the muse in this situation betray her, and her also like betraying him, but them after like them going through a really rocky time, and she really just wants like it to be like the way that it was, and like it's not that she wants to go back to that, but it's like she just wishes that it didn't come to this situation almost. And I don't know, like I feel like this song is still growing on me. I like it, a lot, but I don't know. There's some parts of it that I love that she says. Like I feel like I'm not really getting it, and maybe you can help me. Like some of the parts where she's like, "Oh, like will that make your memory fade from this scarlet maroon?" Like I need to understand how that relates to like maroon on Midnight's, obviously, but I feel like I don't get it 100%. But I love the concept of just like wondering about what ifs all the time. And I think that's something that everybody thinks about after a relationship ends. So it's like it's definitely a very relatable track as well.
This yeah, will that make your memory fade from the Scarlet Maroon? It's like interesting because I'm still trying to again like take away all these like lyrics and try and do something with them. This is one that I couldn't really figure out. A lot of like the contributors and stuff is just like obviously it's just a callback to Maroon, where it's like so scarlet it was maroon. But like when will that make your memory fade from this? It's interesting because this is one of the songs that I think talks about two muses in it, because there's like references to like as the decade would play us for fools, which could reference the 2014, like how they were how her and one of the muses were like a thing in 2014 and like have been since, blah blah blah, on and off. But then there's also like I changed into goddesses outfits and rules to outrun my desertion of you. You just watched it, and that's like that would be about the other muse, I'd say. Like that would be because it wouldn't be really surrounding the one that was previously talked about, because while the tour was going on while that was happening. So I don't know. And there's also like the line that kills me so much, where she says, I loved you the way that you were. And if this is talking about the 6-year muse, I'm gonna cry because it's so horrible. Like it's like almost like this has been said to her, but obviously I don't know how. Obviously we don't know if it has been, but like you know how shit that would be, like to hear that, like you
I
have
would
grown
like
so much.
That's it's hell. Like the song is so sad. It just that sucks. But
that's soul destroying. Like you've come such a long way. Like you're literally the biggest artist in the world. Like you've done all this stuff, and it's like ultimately like you're only doing your job. Like you're releasing albums and stuff through the pandemic, and then to go out and like be so much bigger. Like again, like you're doing your job. So like at the end of the day, like it's almost like if she wasn't doing her job, like how would things have like been? And obviously we don't know if that's about who that is, like who we think it's about. But if that's true, then that's horrible. That's so sad. Like I don't know what you could even do, because then you just feel this guilt of literally like doing what you're meant to be doing. But this song is more like a focus on the vocals. There isn't as much in the background. The thing with like a lot of these tracks from Aaron on this side of the album is I can hear them all being played as surprise songs now, like just in my head, because like if it's a lone piano I'm like, oh my god, this is like thingy.
But I mean I definitely think that like all of the songs in this, like you know, Taylor's done some songs that are like very overproduced as surprise songs, like one of the surprise songs I got was like All You Had to Do Was Stay, which is like extremely overproduced, but like they're all like can be played acoustically. I think the reason that you're saying that is because Aaron's style versus Jack's is a lot more like instrumental focus. Like he picks a couple instruments and works with those instead of like a shit ton of layering. And also I do want to say that this song has a full like I think if I look at the like instrumental credits, like if you look at like the songs that are produced by Jack, you can see that like most of the instrumental credits, like guitar and piano and stuff, they're all Jack. Whereas you know, Aaron has like other people doing the instrumentals, which I think gives him a lot more option. to work with than like just the instruments that he can play. Not no fault to Jack. I think like it works on a lot of the songs that Taylor writes, that especially like the more upbeat ones. We'll talk about that instrumentalism a little bit more in the next track, which I think we can move on to.
Yeah.
It's How Did It End, which this song is incredible. Like I love this song. Like production wise, it's stunning. You can literally hear the orchestra in the background, which I think is like beautiful. There is a full orchestra who played on this track. And like they're all in the credits. There's like 30 people in the credits on the orchestra. It's crazy. And that's you can really hear that in the song. Like and so credits to Aaron to like putting that together and like getting Taylor on a track like this, because like holy cow, is it incredible. And just lyrically as well, it really helps you feel what she's feeling with that orchestra. She's just thinking like, how did it end? Like, why I was in this long relationship, and we talked about this last time as well, but she was in this long relationship, and like based on, I think everyone was like expecting there's going to be some big story that we were going to get from this album, and she's just like, I don't know what happened. We just kind of like, our flame just died, and it sucks. And yeah,
it sort of reminds me of like the way you were saying, like what you were saying was so perfect, because that's the way I see it, is where you were saying like, oh, everybody was like wanting to know what happened, or like how did it happen, and that's like obviously what the song is trying to get across as well. Like it almost feels like she feels like there has to be a reason for her to be like, oh yeah, we're not a thing anymore because of this, because like everybody's watching and everybody's only really caring about the reason. Like nobody really cares about your relationship when it ends unless there's like tea with it, right? Like nobody's like, oh, how did it, like nobody's like, oh, I don't think if you go to someone, or someone goes to you like, oh, I broke up with this person, sometimes I feel like, especially when it's a celebrity, it's more of like, why, what happened, instead of like, oh, are you okay, or like, is things okay?
Which is crazy. And like there's not really, I feel like this song is interesting lyrically because there's not really a defined chorus in terms of like lyricism actually repeating. But in the second chorus she says, guess who we ran into at the shops, walking in circles like she was lost. Didn't you hear? They called it all off. One gasp, and then how did it end? And she says it in a way that's like, these people are talking about me, not in like she's wondering how it's ending. It's like she is feeling like, and like obviously like the first chorus when she's like, come one, come all, it's happening again. She's like, I haven't had a breakup album in how many years? Like, look, it's happening again. And I think personally that if Taylor were to reorder the albums on, I know last week I said she should have started with Guilty as Sin, and like I'm gonna like change it up. I think this would have been the perfect opener to the album, because it gives the perfect context.
Could you imagine,
if that makes sense?
Just
and like to start an album being like, come one, come all, it's happening again.
that is good. And then you'd open up to like the absolutely like stunning and like whimsical like feeling of the sonic, like how sonically beautiful it is. Like you'd open up to that, and you'd be like, holy shit, like this is gonna be crazy. There is a couple lyrics. It's like, he was a hothouse flower to my outdoorsman. A hothouse flower is a person who's very fragile and vulnerable as a result of having been sheltered. So this is obviously how she's like more of like an outy person, and he was definitely more of like a
sheltered
person. And we learned the right steps to different dances, which is such a beautiful way of saying like we were doing everything right, just in the wrong places. Like we were just not looking for the same thing at the end of this. Like we came into this potentially like thinking we wanted the same thing, and then but through the years we learned like the right steps to like pretty much do the opposite of that. Like, which is beautiful. And then and fell victim to the interloper's glances. It's a person who becomes involved in a place or situation where they are not wanted or considered to not belong, which is heartbreaking again. But it's also the dying instead of the killing. Not KIS.
KIS. I was like,
Killing
what? Jack, I don't know what goes on over there in Scotland, but that is not how we sing it here.
Yeah, that's how you sing it. KILLING. No, good damn it. But that is yeah, I don't know. That's and obviously saying about the come on, it's like a public show, and like the thing of like, oh, it's happening again, and it is like 'cause she's always criticized and everything for breakups and stuff, and it's like, oh, like not even asking how she is. It's more of just like, oh, it's happening again. Like what's this time? Like, yeah. So yeah, it's so good. We are. You want to start with this one because I know you have a lot to talk about this one.
Okay, so sure, I'll start. So So High School is the next song, and this song is super interesting. So this song is obviously very much about Travis. I am guessing it was probably the last song to be added to this record. It makes sense because it's not on a physical. So it could have been added like 2 weeks before or something. We don't know. And I think this song, sonically, it's super interesting because it does not fit with the rest of the album at all. Like, because we don't get any we know that about Taylor meeting Travis, but like if we didn't, we don't get any context. There's just this random love song on the album, and it has a completely different sound than the rest of the album. It almost has like this, like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a 90s kind of sound, I would say, if that makes sense. Is that the right? Yeah,
80s 90s like feel to it. Yeah, like the production.
Yeah. And I said this on Twitter, and that this track feels like it was meant to be on TS12. Like, whatever album is coming after this, it was meant to be there, and it was written now, and Taylor just felt like putting it in this album, but it's not really meant for this album. I love this song, and I love the fact that she's put this different, like, 90s sound on it, and I feel like it suits her so well, and it's like what so many people, including myself, have been waiting for Taylor to do a sound like that, and it suits her incredibly, and I'm like, please tell me that this is what your next album is going to sound like, because I am in love with it. Lyrically, this track is fun, it's cute, and like, this is where the glitter gel pen went in this album. It had to go somewhere. Like, when Taylor writes glitter, if you're like a new Swiftie, when Taylor writes glitter gel pen songs, like, you have to learn to not take them so seriously, like London Boy and Paper Rings and songs like those. You know, like, she is almost making fun of herself, but like, she is having the time of her life doing it, and so you have to listen to it from that perspective and have the time of your life listen to it, because I have seen people talk about, like, especially like the Grand Theft Auto lyric, or like the You Know How to Ball, and I Know Aristotle, which is also a bar, but people are like, this is the songwriter of our generation, like, she's just writing so, like, stupidly, and I'm like, but that's the point. Like,
yeah, it's like you're that stupidly in love, and like sorry,
yeah. No, that, like, exactly. She's stupidly in love, so she's writing like she is. Like, that is the point. But people don't get it, or they don't want to listen to the rest of the album and understand that that's not the only thing she knows how to write. But anyway, Jack, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, please go, like, listen to the other, like, 30 tracks, and if you're going to talk about bad lyricism.
Yeah.
So this, and literally, the sound sonically when you open the track, and the whole sort of vibe of it is like, I don't know if I don't think you've listened to too much Biba Doobie. Like I've showed you a couple tracks, I think.
Yeah.
But this is like her style in like such a nutshell. So I'm really wondering if spending time with Biba Doobie at the start of tour is like maybe is maybe where she's picked up like this, like a really interesting sound. Like maybe not picked it up, but like had like a wee bit more of like a surround. Like she's been surrounded with it every single night, right, for the first couple like weeks of tour. But it is like such an interesting, because there's obviously a bunch of artists that do this, but like it was really interesting that Biba Doobie was on the first leg of the tour, and this has came out obviously a while after, but like around it. But it does go just full dream pop, and it's like really just channeling like obviously the energy into like the Travis energy and the love and all that stuff. Like I really wonder if this is something that like her album RTS12 could be. Like everybody's been looking for like a rock album or like just something new from Taylor, but like I honestly would love to hear more dream pop. Like I think it like dream bedroom
I
pop.
hate
like
the whole like we need something new from Taylor, because we don't put that standard on most other artists. Like a lot of artists have multiple albums that sound the same. So like let her do what she wants. She's already super successful. She doesn't need to reinvent her sound every album. Like if she wants to reinvent her sound, she can. If she doesn't have to. She's not meant to please you.
Preach. No, I think a lot of people say it as like a because they feel like she's kind of done everything she can in this, but I don't believe that's true. And I also just like if she releases anything that's so different to like what she's releasing now, like I'm gonna listen to it no matter what, because I just want to hear whatever she has to really say, and like just whatever. But there's a couple lyrics in this. Cheeks pink and twinkling lights in the lyric video for this. TK and TS light up in pink in the lyrics, that are obviously like in the twinkling it's TK, and then in lights it's TS, which is really cute point. And then are you gonna marry, kiss or kill me, which is the throwback to the Travis interview, which is really funny, that he done like in 2016 I think it was. But so yeah,
funny.
It's just a fun track. Really sonically like sounds really good. Again, like the 90 or 80s vibes are coming off really heavily, and it's like the dun 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 dun, dun. Like I just love it. But just let her have fun with the lyrics, man. Touch me while your bros play Grand Theft Auto is a bar.
It's a bar, honestly. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
Haters, turn off the video. Actually, don't. We love you for watching the video.
Dream pop's about having fun, and it's also just like about like doing things in a certain way. So just if that's what we're gonna get, like you're gonna be completely disappointed, but you shouldn't be, because it's just fun.
It's so good. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next track. It's I Hate It Here. It's again produced by Aaron. I feel like this track is quite simple. Like there's not much to say about it lyrically. Like the concept is very simple.
Yeah.
I love the like the first part where she's like, you're a poet trapped inside a body of a finance guy. Like, help me God, that's hilarious. And also just like the concept of like, you know, escapism a little bit. Like everyone has like such difficult times in their lives, and they just like need a little bit of escapism, and how they get that is through multiple like different things, usually like hobbies and whatnot. But like it's just such a good song about it, and always like, you know, I feel like I can super relate to it. Like, you know, the whole like I feel like I don't fit in, and I like feel like I do things differently than everyone else, and I feel like that's definitely like a mental illness thing a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like escape, because I don't want to have to deal with like constantly pretending that I know what I'm doing, and when I don't, feeling embarrassed about it, you know?
It's so tiring. So tiring.
So
like, yeah, that's, and it also just this whole like there's a lot of things in this album that are like, if anybody, like a lot of the things about Taylor is like people are like, oh, she's literally, they just don't treat her as a human being. And I think whenever she releases a new project, we get so much more insight into like how she's feeling, which I hope reminds people that she is. She's been so open with us, obviously, about how she feels and struggles with everything, and like everybody needs time away. There is obviously, this track came with that lyric of like the 1830s, but without all the racists, completely taken without the context of literally what she says about how nostalgia is a mind trick. So again, people just jumping and running with whatever they have. The only note I have on this is obviously just the quick tell me something awful, like you're a poet trapped inside the body of a finance guy. There is thoughts that this could be reference to Joe, how he used to read poetry on SoundCloud, like he had that like poetry account on SoundCloud in like 5-6 years ago, where he used to read poetry.
That's so funny, because I just assumed it was about Maddie because he wears those stupid suits on stage.
That would be a good point, but I think because people just said that Joe looks like a clean cut finance guy, and obviously then Joe like done some stuff for like different tracks of Taylor's, and it's like, okay, well, that is like, how is this gonna play? But I don't know if that was, but this song gives me more. Like, I was looking for the Lakes vibes coming into this album, and this is probably the most Lakes vibe track ever.
This definitely gives that, yeah.
Which is just fun. But there's obviously not a lot to say. It's just kind of, again, folklory, sort of like folky. It's quite like acoustic, and it's just like, I really love when you can hear in music the moving of the fingers on the guitar, and it makes that like sound. I love that. I don't know why. It just makes me so happy to hear it. It just happens in all acoustic songs pretty much, but like, yeah, I just really love that sound. But yeah, there's again not much to go on to here, but it's just a nice song.
It is such a good song.
Oh, this one.
Okay, next track is Thank You, Amy. Obviously, this song has the words K-I-M capitalized in the title, and everything else is lowercase. So, Kim Kardashian. That's who this song is about, and she made it pretty obvious. There's lots of references, like there's a bronze spray tanned statue of you. But I feel like this song is so relatable to anyone who's like ever been through a friendship breakup, that like, you know, especially that like help them, you know, connect with someone else, or, you know, achieve things that they didn't really realize that they could because of that, and or just had someone betray them in some kind of way. The song is super, super relatable. They're like, everyone's like, oh my, now everyone's like arch nemesis, they're just calling their Amy, which is really funny. But I love this song. I love the concept of her saying, like, you know, now your kids are listening to my music. Yeah. And I'm going to write this song about you just to spite you, so that when they listen to this album, they're going to be like, you're going to have to hear this. And now I'm super, super famous, and you're trying to suck up to me, but screw you, because you burnt me, and you made me motivated to do all this, but also, like, I'm never gonna forgive you because, like, you literally, like, ruined my life.
It's this song is like, it's, see when she goes, all the time you were throwing punches and I was building something, like that.
Oh my god,
it's so beautiful. But it's also, I was listening to this and I was saying how, like, I think my commentary while listening to this was like, without looking at the lyrics, I was like, it's really shitty because like she has to live with knowing the fact that, like, because of how like things went down, like rep and stuff, like a lot of those albums and a lot of projects that had, or like even tracks on the projects had like a lot to do with this thing happening in her life. And it's like really shitty that like she can't look back at these tracks really without realizing why they're there initially. And it's like almost like, does she really feel like she would have made this on her own, right, without these things happening. And she obviously does say this. I just need to find the lyric, but it was like, oh my god, where does she say it? She said it somewhere. I can't find it now. Oh, there you go. That there wouldn't be this if there hadn't been you, which is like, is so heartbreaking, because it's like you almost take away like, she's almost kind of like taking away her ability of like producing and writing this stuff, like, and being like, well, realistically, like, yeah, this was me that done this, but like without going through this place of really bad heart, and like without the pain that you caused me, like, who's saying that this album would even be here? And it's like,
yeah,
it's that's actually, because considering she released since that happened, like, obviously, like, so much projects, and it's like, where would she be if this didn't happen?
It's funny that this song is in this album, because when Taylor said there wouldn't have been this if it hadn't been for you, you know, I think that she's talking about her current stardom. But now that you say that, I also wonder, like, obviously, like, Taylor and Joe's relationship, like, flourished and blossomed during that time after, like, all of the stuff with Kim happened, and, like, she had to move to the UK and was, like, holed up. And if that wasn't the case and she was still, like, living in New York and stuff, would her and Joe have even become a long-term relationship thing, or just had been like a little fling that she had? And that's almost like, now that you say, oh, there wouldn't have been this if there hadn't been you, like, would this album even exist? Like, would Taylor have been with Joe? Would any of this, would she have become, you know, would the Eras tour have even happened? Like, all of these things are like dominoes, and like, you can think about those things in your own life too. I can think, I'm not going to talk about those things, but I can think about things like that in my own life, like people who have hurt me, or people who aren't in my life anymore, and I'm like, wow, well, like, I wouldn't have met this other person if it wasn't for them, or I wouldn't have had time to do this other thing if it wasn't for that. And those things could be good or could be bad, and that's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, like, it doesn't mean that we should, like, forgive Kim for what she did or anything like that. But it's such a, like, although it's such a specific song, because, like, she talks about, like, everybody knows who she's talking about, and she has, like, some very specific references in it, it's still super, super relatable, I feel like.
Yeah, like, and you're gonna take, like, stuff away from her music no matter what, but it is honestly just heartbreaking, because it is that. It's like, you can tell, it's almost like you kind of have to thank your enemy for, like, allowing you to be in this position, but it's almost like she shouldn't have to. Like, this is stuff that she's built up off her own back. Yeah, maybe in retaliation with certain things against someone, but it's like, it's almost shitty, because, like, Taylor's the biggest artist in the world, and it's like she's kind of been like, well, and it's not that I'm doubt that she's taking that off her own back and be like, oh, well, this is actually the reason why I'm so big, but, like, that's almost how it's been, like, looked at. It's like, I'm only this big because of this thing that you done that pushed me to be this person. So it's like, would I have had this drive and this thing to be, and that's heartbreaking, because it's, as much as you want to look back and hate this person, you're like, I can't hate you as much, because while you done a really shitty thing to me, this is, like, I'm in this position I am now because of what happened. Because
of you, yeah.
And that's, yeah, but, like, this is probably one of the most relatable, because everybody's been there, and even, like you're saying, like, there's 101 things that you can look back and be like, okay, well, I wouldn't have done this if this wasn't this person wasn't blah blah blah. Like, yeah, it's sonically beautiful, and it's probably one of my favorites off of this side of the track, outside of the album, and it's but it is, like, I've also seen people get hating her for capitalizing Kim. Like, who gives a shit? Again, sorry, we're gonna go, like, why did she get criticized for literally, like, being,
honestly,
like,
the song is so obviously about Kim too. Like, I feel like everyone would have put the pieces together anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, yeah. It's just, yeah, anyway. This is I look in people's windows.
Yeah, I Look in People's Windows is the next track. It's the shortest track on the album, I think. But it's 2 minutes and 11 seconds, which like is extremely short for a Taylor song. But it's super good. I love like I don't know how to describe it, but like it's like a light, airy sound in this track. If you know what I mean.
Okay,
I love that. And this song is for the yearners, like 100%. Like, you know, the whole I'm addicted to the if only. And, you know, the whole like idea of being like, I look at all of you and I'm like, I wish I could be like you. And I think so many people feel like that. And I just think this song is super cute. It's short and it's sweet and it's like, it's nice. I don't have much to say about it, Jack. What do you have more to say?
A little bit. Yearners, put your hands in the comments. Woo, I'm putting my hand up. It's this is like one of the songs that you come into and you don't really know like how it's going to be off the title, because it could be taken in different ways. But this has been portrayed beautifully, like the way lyrics are come across and like what the meaning of it is. One lyric that stands out really well is northbound I got carried away, south south south. It's part like obviously like she goes one way, they go the other way, and it's like the repetition of south 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 is like it getting further away, so it's like it's drifting. But there was when I was listening to this, there was, so you said an airy sound and then like in the production, right? So with the production, I noticed it might not be birds, right? But there's like chirping and like it's like there's like sounds of like leaves, and like the way I can envision this is like it could be taken different ways. Like she's like almost on the outside that she, or like almost on the outside, or like in her own like sort of like, I don't know how to, I can put it, I can't put it into words. But it's almost like she's, this is going to sound so outlandish, but it's almost like she's stuck on the outside, right, obviously, right, and this is why you've got the airy sound, the birds chirping, or like the sounds that sound like birds chirping, and the leaves and stuff, so it's like, it's almost like she's in this, like, this is not what she's in, but it's like, if I was to picture it, it's almost like she's in this like forest, like away from everything, like, and she's like running and she's like alone in this, like lost, and like she's searching through like the trees and yearning and like like trying to find like that like encountering again, like she's, I don't know how to describe it, but there is like, I don't know if you can hear it as well, but it's almost like that's the sounds that are there, and it's like she's in her own like metaphorical like forest and like stuck, surrounded by like, lost in this like sort of like thing. I honestly cannot word it, and I've even wrote it down in like just bullet points because I cannot like image, I can't put it across in an image, but if you listen to it, there is like sort of things, and I think that's what I'd taken from it. It's sort of much just like she's on her own and she's trying to find her way out, and like also like look for this person and find this connection that she's lost, and it's like she's in the jungle lost on her own, like kind of type thing. And I don't know if anybody else hears that, but I hear that. I can't even like timestamp it because I've not got it on me. But that airiness was like the initial thing that then made me be like, okay, well there must be more to this, and like I could hear like some subtle things in the background, but
that's such good production. I didn't even notice that, but that's
honestly
so cool.
Might just be me fucking hearing things, but I swear
No.
I watched somebody in the comments could be like, "Are you insane?" Okay.
Please
maybe I was
go
just
to the
outside.
comments and tell Jack he's not insane.
Maybe I was just like, maybe it's just the real life. Maybe I just got that endorsed in the thing that I was actually just hearing real life things, thinking it was Aaron just working.
But I mean, if it's not real, they should incorporate your idea, because I think it's
that's
cool.
the new seagull cock. Is it cock? Oh gosh, right. This wasn't even Aaron. This was Jack. Sorry, I said.
Yeah, this is Jack. Yeah.
Well, nice one, Jack.
Okay, let's move on to the next track, which is devastatingly heartbreaking.
That's not on the track list.
It is. Stop. You know what I meant. It is The Prophecy, which is Taylor essentially saying that she feels like she has all these things in life, money and fame and stuff, but she just wants somebody who wants to be there with her. She wants to experience that with somebody. She doesn't like the prophecy, and she wants, who do I have to speak to to redo the prophecy? If she feels like she's going to be alone forever, and that is her destiny, and she doesn't like that. And it's so sad. It's so sad because, we had so many, we had Lover and Reputation, which are albums about her finally finding the one, and to have that taken away from her again, and her being thought I caught lightning in a bottle, oh, but it's gone again. That is so sad. She wrote the song, and then the prophecy was yeah, here's Travis Kelce. Anyway, I don't know the timeline of her writing the song and when she started dating Travis. I'm just saying shit. But Jack, what are your thoughts on this song? I think production-wise, it's stunning. Yeah, I don't really have so many production notes on this album, honestly, but yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like in the production of the song, it's almost like she hangs on a lot of words after the end,
Yes.
Which plays into the whole she's yearning for this she's trying to hold on to every last breath to change this, and it also comes up again with the spending my last coin so someone will tell me it'll be okay. So it's the last hope of your last coin, in a wishing well, or a lot of people have compared this to be this could be anywhere from a wishing well, it could be Hotline. Obviously the whole album stems around these topics. It could be therapy, or it could even be just talking to her mum, because she said multiple times that her mum helps clear things up in her head and everything. So it's could be these things but it's you're looking for that, just your last hope, and you're willing to just do everything you can to change the prophecy in a sense. But even statues crumble if they're made to wait, which is gosh, heartbreaking.
So sad.
At the TTPD Spotify thing, there was a statue of Euthyssus, which has said to have crumbled in storage while waiting to be shipped to England, which could be a reference there. Poison Blood, I Still Dream of Him, reference to Sleeping Beauty, wants to be woken up. It could be kind of the wants to be woken up by the love of her life. She wants her time to come to be the one that's picked, and and just to have that someone. In the Lover CD series, in her diary things, she said that I always feel like I'm the girl before the one. I'm not the one. I'm the girl you think is the one for you, and when it doesn't work out with me, you meet the next girl and you realize she's the one. And it's she's asked for her fate to be changed. I'm so afraid I sealed my fate. No sign of soulmates. I've been on my knees, changed prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants company. And it's everything you said. It's just her yearning for, just to be the one. For finally just be the one. That was so heartbreaking for even us. We thought, I think looking on and being a part of it all, we were she's never done this before. She's never been so willing to write an album or songs and stuff in this manner about someone, and and she just seemed so happy and everything, and it's I think we it shocked a lot of us initially. So that's only us. Too. So you can't even imagine someone who was in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel bad for her.
It's so sad. This song is so sad, but I'm so happy that Taylor feels comfortable enough to share songs like this with us because they're so good, and definitely feelings that a lot of people feel, especially as they get older and they still feel like they haven't found their person. It's not a feeling that she's alone in, for sure.
I know you're I'm 24, mate. I'm not getting any chance. But no, I hope she, when she writes these things, she does realise that how much it actually helps people, as well as help her speak about it to get it out of her chest.
I mean, she did say that she needed to write this album,
Yeah.
and I think that's what she means when it comes to songs like this. Like, she was feeling all of this pain, and the only way she knew how to deal with it was to write about it. And, you know, she wrote incredibly about it, and I'm so happy that she shared it with us too. But the next song is called Cassandra. So this song is about essentially how Taylor can see the future, like Cassandra of Troy, who had the power of true prophecy, but she was never believed by anybody. So she is essentially talking about in this song, like, she said, so they killed Cassandra first because she feared the worst, and they tried to tell the town. So they filled my cell with snakes, I regret to say. Do you believe me now? And essentially she's talking about people. She's talking about Tay Voodoo. This song is about Tay Voodoo. She's talking about people like Kanye and Scooter Braun who had downfalls years or however long after she publicly called them out, and she was like, wow, like, I was right, you guys didn't listen to me, and you made me deal with all this pain because you didn't listen to me, and now look at you. Do you believe me now? Because I was right. And holy shit, it is so powerful, and this is my favorite song on the whole album.
Okay.
The production on it is incredible. Like, you can feel her rage in the music, and you can feel, you know, some of the lyrics are so good, like blood's thick but nothing like a payroll. You know, and, you know, just like the way that she delivers certain songs, like when she says, like, they all said nothing, like, she just delivers it with that, like, enunciation that you, like, you can feel it, you feel her anger. And I love it because as Swifties, we've all been saying this, like, we told you so when all of these things have been happening. And for Taylor to, like, make a song literally about that, being like, I told you so, is amazing.
You've summed it up so well. There is a couple lyrics. They knew the whole time that I was onto something. So a lot of, like, around this time of, like, Kim and stuff, Chris told Kim, I don't know if this is public or not, or if it's been, like, speculated, but Chris apparently told Kim to, like, patch things up because Kim could see that what they were doing, and, like, they were, like, how they were manipulating the situation, and, like, obviously not telling the truth, and she knew it was going to backfire. We all know Kim Kardashian, like, Chris Kardashian is, or Kris Jenner, is a mastermind of knows and has, like, done so much shitty stuff in the past in terms of, like, how Kim and stuff is even famous. So Chris obviously knows what's going on, and told them to, like, patch things up and, like, fair. Patching up the crack along the wall, I pass it and lose track of what I'm saying. The symbolism calls to mind the Beatles fixing a hole, which also uses cracks in the walls as metaphors for distractions and painful memories, which stifle one's ability to live life freely. Swift tries to patch over these memories with daydreams, but even after they're patched over in the third verse, she still remembers where the cracks used to be, which is enough to trigger recall. Again, not a lot of talk about the production. It's just genuinely really stunning, and it also, like, how it's not so much stripped back, like, it's not stripped back fully, but there is a lot. It's, like, stripped back a wee bit more than previous songs have been. There is still, like, synth and everything on this. You don't hear it super, like, much, but it also gives, like, a really good sense of, like, vulnerability. I think the track, like, through the production, it kind of comes off as, like, it's like she's vulnerable within the track, like, she's telling us everything, and, like, it's also, like, could then play into the whole fact of, like, it's almost like it's not like not vulnerable, but it's because it's so stripped back. It's not like something that's like quite concrete, which could also just be about how like nobody ever fucking believed her, and how like it can play into that. Like, I don't know. It's just there's a lot, and this is a track that I think there's always those tracks where like someone needed to write this, and this is something that Taylor needed to write, to just literally be like, I told you all, like the biggest I told you so ever.
It's
and
so good.
yeah, the most warranted one ever. It's literally so good.
Okay, so the next track is Peter, which is Wendy by Macy Peters, Peter by Taylor Swift. Like, come on. Anyway, this song's about Peter Pan. Like, it's based off the story Peter Pan, hence the name. She talks about in this song, she's using the metaphor of Peter Pan, essentially. And she talks about, like, how she's, like, waiting for Peter to come back. And I love the bridge of this song where she's like, you said you were going to come get me, but you were 25. And the shelf life of those fantasies has expired. Lost to the Lost Boys chapter of your life. Forgive me, Peter. Please know that I tried. And, she's talking about how she had been waiting for him, and he never came to her. And by the time that he did, it was too late. And she wasn't in a place in her life where they could be together anymore. Hence the like, but the woman who sits by the window has turned out the light. And the outro where she's like, said you're gonna come find me, then said you're gonna grow up and then come find me. Promises ocean deep, but never to keep. It's just so sad about like a love that was very youthful and hoped to be rekindled when the timing was right and like never happened. And obviously using Peter Pan as like that metaphor. Yeah, it's a really, really good song.
Again, Maisie Peters does such a good job at talking about this story kind of thing as well. I seen like the post. I don't know who done it, but I seen you retweeted it on launch day. And I was like, that is so iconic. Where they like sort of was like the similarities between Wendy and Peter, which is it's fun. Go listen to Maisie Peters if you do not. You're missing out. And again with this Lost to the Lost Boys chapter of your life. So there is a song by 1975 called Lost Boys. I'm just trying to remember where. And then he referred to himself previously as a sort of emo Peter Pan, self-lacerating Pied Piper kind of character, and then performs a song called Lost Boys, and then it's obviously that lyric about how the woman who sits by the window has turned. That's such a beautiful lyric. I'm just trying to make sure I've not wrote anything down because it's all jumbled.
I love how
into
that's like kind of a reference back to like I look in people's windows, but like not really. It's just like it's a window reference, and I feel like it's the same.
But it's like she's on the other side of it now, and she's like the one deciding. Like she's the one that's like being like, yeah. It's like
she's the one she's looking out of the window waiting for her partner, like the person she yearns for to come back. Whereas I look in people's windows, she's roaming around looking for the person who she yearns for. And one's like more active and more passive, but it's the same concept at the end of the day.
Oh my god. Okay. I didn't think about that. Taylor and my almost dated in 2014 when he was 25. And then obviously the struggle with addiction then. So it was like said you were going to come grow up, so like drop that and then going to come find me. And also when she was on tour, when she said that this one is about you, she said it during the Peter losing Wendy line in Cardigan.
This song is definitely like it seems probably about Maddie, but so I feel like it all adds up and makes sense, but it's still like such a good like I feel like Peter Pan, like it's, and Wendy, like obviously it's like a very overused metaphor in a lot of different songs, not just Mace Peters and Taylor. Like,
no, they're the only two to ever do it. Just kidding.
Yeah, and Taylor actually copied Maisie Peters.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah, that is so true. When Wendy came out and Taylor's like, I am gonna steal this. This is perfect. No, we're joking. Please don't hate us. We're joking.
I think it's super interesting though, like the way that this metaphor is used here, and I think like it's such a beautiful way to like write a whole song about something that, you know, could have been written really directly but written metaphorically in that way, and still get the point across.
It also
Incredible.
Comes up in the album multiple times about how like the childhood theming comes about. Like I think there, I don't know how I feel about it, because obviously there is a song coming up that is done in this way as well, and it's I don't know, it's almost like, obviously if we're talking about one of the muses 2014, it's almost like, the way I see it is there's a lot of like, when the references to this muse come up, there's like a lot of like it's written in the way of like a teenage, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like there's a lot more childlike things in here, and like stories and stuff like Peter Pan and Wendy and stuff, and it's like there's a lot of like things throughout the album where you're like where she kind of takes like a almost like how you would as a teen, like look at love, in the way she like writes about things, when it's like there's certain things to do in songs that are possibly linking to this person. It's like it goes back to like that kind of that vibe, but you see it come through, and there's also like just many different points where it sort of that stylizing comes through, and I'm just wondering if there's like a lot of, if there was like a reason behind that, or if it's like, if it is just like how she's done it, and she's maybe she's probably purposely done it, but like how that came about, that didn't really form a good sentence, but like pretty much whenever these things are spoke about, it's done in like that kind of manner, but I just don't know.
Yeah. Okay, the next track is The Bolter, which this song gives me I love when you sing. You should do it all the time.
I should know.
No, this song gives me Betty vibes, like sonically, not really lyrically, but like it just like, it sounds very similar to Betty for some reason to me. I don't know if I'm like, I don't know if you see that.
I can. It's with it's like folky. It's like a really folk song.
Yeah. And the song is like, it's just pretty much about like a girl who, like, every time she gets to know anyone, she just leaves because she's scared, and you know, that means that she can never make any connection with anybody, and it's just, I don't know, I love the vibe of the song. It's super, super good. I love, my favorite lyric, because I love how it's delivered when she says there's escape in escaping, like the way that it's delivered, her voice, like her voice goes up. I'm not a musician, so I can't tell like certain things.
Oh my god, wait.
But yeah.
Wait,
what?
Yeah, I need to listen to that again, because I've wrote a note that says escaping, the breath escapes her mouth, splitting. Wait, I'm gonna listen to this quickly. I'm gonna keep talking, so we're not having to cut this.
It. Yeah.
Where is it? I'm trying to figure out where it is in the song. Escaping.
Go to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Oh my god, you're so right. Jack, you are so smart.
Thanks. Yeah, that's it. So it's like there's escape and escape. Like it sort of like
And
it goes up,
yeah.
and then it like releases.
Yeah, like I love the delivery of that, and like I didn't really think of like the point of that delivery. I just thought it was really pretty. But like you're so right when you say that, like that is because one of the main lyrics in this song is like as she was leaving, it felt like breathing. And you know, at this point she's talking about leaving and she's like breathing in the song. That's so cool.
She is so smart.
So
God,
smart.
I can't speak a single word, but see when Taylor Swift writes lyrics, my English grade comes out and it does wonders. Why is the door blue? I can tell you, don't worry. The door's blue because it represents how she's feeling in this moment in time. I'm joking. But no, this it's like, oh, I'm not gonna sing again, but it's the chorus, like started with a kiss, so we must stop meeting, like this, and then it's like the out the drive one evening, ended with the slam of the door, then he'll call her a whore, wish he wouldn't be sore, but as she was leaving it felt like breathing, like that. It's just the way it comes across, like the delivery of it.
So good.
Like, can you imagine this in a stadium with a guitar? Sorry.
Like, I think, like, it just goes back to Betty. Like, it's so similar to Betty in terms of, like, the lyrical delivery and the sound and everything. I love that. I love it.
I don't know if I've got any notes on this. Let me double check. So the bolter, the rhyming sound of this is so fun. I think you said that there's no escaping. But having one of the meanings being told the woman's perspective may come. No, yeah, I pretty much like how what we spoke about. There is a couple notes that are just like lyrics and stuff, but there's nothing super that we haven't really spoke on for this one. But it's just one of the, like, sonically, in the way it's been produced, is like, this is probably without it being like a favorite on the album, this is like something that's so high up. Like, it is just like the whole, like, the way she's gone about this song, what it means, how she's done it, how it sounds. Like, props to Aaron and Taylor. Like, smashed it. It sounds so good. Yeah,
for sure. I agree. The next song is Robin, which again is produced with Aaron, who Aaron's son is named Robin, and this song is, I mean, it's named after a child, and it literally is about innocence and childhood. And when she goes, you know, like, the part of the lyrics where she's like, the time will arrive for the cruel and the mean. You'll learn to bounce back just like your trampoline, but now we'll curtail your curiosity. I just love that. I love how she's looking at this child, and she's saying, like, you know, you're so innocent and sweet, and I've gone through all this pain that she's talked about in the album. So I feel like, as the second to last track on the album, like, this is so fitting, because she's like, you know, I've gone through all this pain, but look at this child who will also go through pain in their lives. Like, right now we're protecting them for them. You know, you have no room in your dream for regrets. And she's almost a little envious, but she's also she's writing this song almost to, like, remember those childhood moments before she was, you know, kind of swung into the things of being an adult, and how hard that can be in her current life. And those concepts are then talked about in the manuscript, which I think is super interesting, that this is like a preamble to the manuscript where she's like talking about, like, innocence and childhood, if that makes sense.
No, that I wrote that to go from this to the manuscript where she's reflecting on her life as a child is like through is so cool. There's a lot. There's not, again, not too much. I will say again, and then I need to stop. Sorry, I'm self-reflecting as I'm going through these. Delivery is just really pretty. There's also, this is kind of what I was talking about in Peter. This could be possibly like a kind of double, not entendre, I don't know what the word would be, but because the way to go tiger, higher and higher, could be like a Winnie the Pooh reference because of Christopher Robin. Tiger could be Tigger, obviously, but like sort of just this like playful like look at it, and it also like referring back to childhood, like stuff that like is there, but it is just like, it's more of like that. you've got your whole life ahead of you. You've like got these huge dreams, and nobody's ever like shot you down yet. Like your head's full of these like dreams and everything, and like yeah, you just have like no room for regrets or that now. Like you're just you're like the childhood. God, I wish we could all go back then. Is like yeah, and it's just to go from here to manuscript, which is the perfect closer, may I add. And like you said, it's something really smart on the last one, like how this is the track on the vinyl, of the normal, like the manuscript, like this is the normal like default one, so it makes sense because this is a perfect closer. Like this is, and it's also like if we didn't know that Taylor was going to come back, and if she wasn't on tour, this like could potentially be like a really good like. This is the last you'll ever hear from me.
Disagree. Honestly,
do you think so?
Like people say that shit every single time. Like it feels like that because it's the end of an album. It's the end of this era.
But this one
right?
sounds different though. This one like tails off so beautifully.
They say that every time, but I mean, like I don't know. I think it's interesting because I think this is the end of an era for her. Almost like she has, through this album, you can see she has, unlike ever before, she's not talking about what he did to her or how like this man sucks. Like she is talking about that a little bit, but she's also doing a lot of self-reflection, which she hasn't done in previous breakup albums. She's thinking about herself and how she can be better and how, you know, the things in her life have affected her, and it's like she is now moving on to a different stage of her life where she is more confident and happy and understands all of these hardships in a much different way, and this song is her understanding that. And I want to read something from Tumblr, from Coastal Town on Tumblr. They say the manuscript ending the album on the utter jaw-drop moment that neither of the muses of the actual album were the first men to fuck her up with the promises of marriages and babies, and that first heartbreak so long ago laid the scene for the woman she would become and the ways she would approach love, and how we all watched her life like scenes in a show. But she kept coming back to the manuscript of the first torrid affair that ruined her, to bookend an album about two love affairs that had destroyed her utterly in almost the exact same way, because all her muses are acquired like bruises. It's bone chilling.
Gosh.
Anyway, yeah. I'm so thankful for other Swifties for analyzing things, because sometimes my dumbass things just go over my head. So, yeah, but I thought that was really important to read, and credit to Coastal Town on Tumblr for posting that, because, like, genuinely, I feel like that is 100% where she's coming from with this track. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, she goes through different stages, and like again, how you were saying how it's the end of the Canada, and she's like sort of coming and putting to bed like all these past muses and these like not trauma, but like these sort of like cuts and bruises that she's got from these experiences to bed, and it's like it's almost like really quite interesting, because it's like, how is this going to tail off into something else? I'm still a believer that TS13, if there was ever a last album, is going to be TS13. It's just written in like the stars at this point, but it just sounds like a really good closer. Like it would be like if she was done with everything, that would be like a really good one, I think, because it does sum up, like it goes through like a lot of different eras that she's been through, a lot of the different things she spoke of in the past, like how she has reflected on like how these people fucked her up, and it's almost like this doesn't affect me anymore. So like now that I'm rereading it back, it's almost like this is fine. Like this, I'm moved on. This is I'm past it. Like this is yours now to like read, and like also like kind of take away for yourself and like apply it to your own life in these situations, and also like link it to like to take meaning from it that you need and everything like that.
I was just gonna say, like, I think that I think that song, well, I've mentioned before that songwriting is Taylor's way of coping, and I feel like this song talks about that in a little bit of a meta way, where she ends the song with saying, now and then I reread the manuscript, but the story isn't mine anymore. As in, she writes these songs to deal with her heartbreak, and by releasing them to the public, that is her process of letting go of it, of saying, this is yours now, and I want to watch you interpret it in the way that you think that I wrote it. Because it helps me feel separated from these things that actually happened to me. And that is just me, like, analyzing this, but that's how I took it, and I think that's, like, it's a good coping mechanism. It's great for us, we get more music, but, like, it's interesting, and, like, it's just such an interesting song, for sure.
It's like almost like she's going through these respective eras and these respective times, and looking back at how she wrote about them then, and sort of being like reflecting how she wrote over them, and realizing like how bad things were, but now she's like having a different it's like because so there's like obviously things about like what was it, like she where is it, she thought about how he had said, since she was so wise beyond her years and everything, that could be related to someone dating an actor, the slow dance, blah blah blah, like someone else. And it's like these like, it's just pretty much describing her experience with like a lot of her whole life pretty much. I think this does genuinely go back from like everything we've seen so far, from when Taylor was Taylor. And it's almost like she's again, what you said about her taking it's not that she's fully went into this being like, this person fucked me up. It's like, I fucked myself up, and like even if I didn't, like I'm reflecting on how like I'm also like in these situations, I'm reflecting how I am as a person, like how I deal with things. And it's almost like she's at this whole different stage of her life, and it's she's it just gets me really excited, because like what's going to come next, because
I mean, like I said, I think So High School's like a little bit of a sneak peek of it, but I'm like super super excited as well. I think it's going to be interesting what comes next. Yeah, so like overall, I think this half of the album is really good. It's definitely very different. It's like what I said at the start, it feels like a lot of the songs feel separate, like they feel like individual tracks, versus the first half of the album felt a little bit more like like we were following a storyline. But these songs all fit into that storyline somehow, so they feel like vault tracks in a way, I would say. So I feel like it's super hard to rank it all together. I think production wise, like I like this half of the album and I like the other half of the album. I think sonically, like overall, all 31 tracks are super super cohesive. Like, I was scared because Taylor is like not always the best at making things super cohesive sonically or lyrically, like in some ways. And I think this album does both. I think it's so incredible. And as I listen to it more, I feel like every single track has a purpose in this album, and it's really like a snapshot of this time in her life and everything she was feeling at those moments. And overall, I think I have to give what did I give the first half again? 8.3 or something?
I think so,
yeah. I'm gonna give it a 8.9.
Okay.
I'm scared to give anything above a 9 when we do these rankings, because I'm like, well, like, I need, like, the best things to be at the top, and this is, like, the best, but not, like, the best, so I'm just, like, I don't know. Overall, personally, I don't have any notes. Like, it's just so good. I think we talked about, like, certain songs. There's some, like, lyrical and production choices that we maybe didn't love, but we still liked it. The one note I'm gonna give is Taylor, you cannot release 31 tracks without giving an introduction or an interlude or both to the audience, because it's like what I talked about last time. Starting the album with Fortnite, it doesn't make sense to people. Like, it's not where the story starts, and it also doesn't give an introduction to what the story is about. In this record, I think How Did It End would have been the perfect start, or just having like a 30-second intro track would have been like super, super helpful. Having an interlude in the 31 track album would have also been incredible. I think like it could have just been like something small, but it could have been like 30-40 seconds, but I think it helps with telling a cohesive story in an album instead of having 31 songs, which nobody is going to get through, or somehow, and like still make it feel, even though it is super storyline cohesive and sonically cohesive, it still feels like a compilation of songs in some senses rather than an album. And I think that's Taylor's biggest weakness, and she was getting there with this. She was so close, but she didn't get there 100%, in my opinion. But overall, like 10 out of 10, no notes. How about you, Jack?
Yeah, there's not as much. I forgot to mention something about the manuscripts. I'm going to mention it now. There is, and I just was reading through my notes. I was like, I didn't say something. There is sort of like an isolated audio. Like production wise, it's really interesting on this track, and I almost feel like it's the way it sounds, because there's like an echo to the piano. I envisioned it like she's playing it live, and like she's playing it to like everybody, and like she's telling the story of like to us directly of like her past, like going through, or like almost like it's like a really stripped back like short version of the Eras Tour. Like she's going through all the different pretty much times in her life, and then at the end being like saying this is like passing it off to you pretty much. And I almost feel like if there was like a crowd like clapping and something at the end, like that could be like confirmation that that's kind of what it was. But that's the way I kind of seen it. I was listening to it and I was like, it sounds very, because there's like a weird distinctive like echo to the piano, and the way she sounds really like, she sounds like, see sometimes when they cut the crowd audio or like a concert, or like if you're watching something live on the TV and you can just hear them like really distinctively, that's what it sounds like. So it almost feels like she's telling us all this story, like telling us this story and then passing it off to us pretty much, like while she's performing it. Again, that could just be added in production, but it's just kind of the vibe I got from it. I also haven't really described that well, but yeah.
No, I agree.
I don't know, I feel like I'm definitely reading into some of these way too much, but it's just interesting. I really like doing that. But initially, I was really confused about the placement. Again, I spoke about this, of these tracks, like going from like a really cohesive story of like trying to explain how you feel, or like showing how you feel after like a really bad breakup, or like a long-term breakup, of like that confusion state of being like that like longing and like going for a rebound, and then with the rebound you're still like looking back at that past relationship, as well as like all going through all these things. Very cohesive, of how like initially I was taken back at that. I was like, what the heck's going on? And then it took a couple tracks to realise what it was actually doing. But then this came out of nowhere and I was like, I don't know where this place is, or like however, like, but then once you separate that from it, it opens it up a lot more. 31 tracks initially, or like say 16 after, or 15 after the 16 initially, was so much to wake up to. And I'm so glad it's only 2 hours and it wasn't like so much longer, because waking up to that is like a lot, like, because I love it and I was so hyped for it, but I was like, this is so much to like take in, especially when you're trying to experience a new album, especially this deep of an album. Like, I'm still listening to it maybe like over like 80 times now, and I still find things, and it's crazy. So yeah, that was kind of like what I had going for it. Like, I was a little bit taken back, but these tracks are a wee bit more like, I'm really so I really came into this thinking it was going to be like the Lakes and stuff. So again, I was taken back with a lot of the production choices, and a lot of the synth usage. but I actually don't mind it in some of these tracks. Like I think the tracks where and it, like as well as in the first half of the album and this half, it's done really tastefully with some songs. Some songs don't really need it, but they're there, and I don't really feel about it. But you don't see a lot of it in this side of the album, which is why I really love this side of the album. And I love it's its own separate thing, right? And I think she's just it's just really been split up well. The production choices in this, like we spoke about, there's so many, like that breathing one is crazy, like the thing I spoke about, and like looking in people's window, I look in people's windows and stuff, and it just it does it really well. And then obviously ending with the manuscript, which is the perfect end. It's just good. The new sound that we might possibly get, like the dream pop sound, is like really interesting, and I cannot wait to see what comes of it. I do like have obviously what you said, like there's no interludes or like storytelling apart from what's in the music, and I think this is what Taylor doesn't really do this, and that's fair. But like, see, if you're going to release 31 tracks, like you need to have something that's not music, that's like a 30-second track or like 30-second interlude to like split things up to tell the story that's maybe not being told through the music.
Like she could have, remember we read that poem last time, which was she should have just done like she could have had like a little piano in the background, and she could have spoken it, or she could have had one of her friends speak it, and she could have put that in the middle of the album, or at the start of the album, or at the end. And I think maybe not at the end, but it should be either at the start or the middle. And I think that it would have elevated this album into a different level for me if something like that was on this album.
Yeah, like I don't know like how it would place out, because you could do it, you could split it up and like have the ones like how she goes through these different periods, and she could sing like a verse, or she could like do the poem for like the verse of that sums up the last 4 tracks or 5 tracks, and then she could like, because then that splits it up into more. And like I would love, I don't know if I've got a video of Taylor reading that, but that poem is fucking gorgeous. Like I'd love to hear hear her say that. I think we maybe have, but I don't know, I just really I think it's really sonically beautiful, really storytelling and sonic and lyrically beautiful. I would just maybe, and I think like a breather, I think, is what would be a good sorry, what were you saying?
And I think what you're saying about like the production stuff, I feel like there's a lot of Jack hate online, but ultimately I think it just comes down to like personal preference of like the kinds of songs that you like, and like both are completely valid. But I think like some people online like forget that like a lot of their favorite songs are produced by Jack. Like like Getaway Car is a good example, or like Guilty as Sin, which is literally like the biggest fan favorite of this album. Like I've seen the most TikToks and stuff of that song, is produced by Jack. So like I think Jack and Aaron both have their place on Taylor's music, and I would love, like I said last week, I would love to see her work with new producers, because I think every time Taylor works with a new producer, we see her innovate a little bit and her change, and I think it's super interesting to see that transformation. But I also understand the need for Taylor to work with people she's comfortable with, especially when she's writing vulnerable music, and I think it makes sense. And I think you can have your personal preference and say you like the songs that Aaron is on versus the songs that Jack is on, but like to be like Jack should stop working with Taylor is like a little bit weird and extreme. So like podcast Jack has a preference for Aaron's songs, but like don't take that as a warrant to like go off in the comments about how you hate Jack Antonoff's production or whatever.
I love Jack
because no, I'm saying, I know that's not what you meant, but I'm saying that other people might take it like that, so please don't take it like that, because we do not warrant that in this community.
Seagull calls are my favourite thing ever. Sorry, I need to stop alluding to that. I'm going to get so much hate for that.
You're
no,
fine.
But like, I do love, I think Jack, like what you said about how, like a lot of our favourite songs are to do with Jack, and I don't think, like even Aaron, like I think the way things are going with like So High School, if that is what we're gonna see, obviously Aaron worked on that.
He produced that. Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna even see Aaron in the next one. Like this album closes out perfectly. It shuts down all our previous areas, like finishing, like putting that final full stop on the story. And if there was ever a chance for her to work with someone new, where this pain has been left behind, because she should be working with people that she trusts and like feels safe around, right? Because Aaron and Jack, maybe not so much Aaron recently. Aaron obviously has been more recent. Been around her for these last projects, right? So she's summing up pretty much what she's went through previous to them, as well as like a lot with them. So like they should be part of this. And like, who's to say that we even come into the next one with like a completely new producer and we don't see Jack or Aaron? And I only prefer Aaron's stuff on this album because of how I feel about like the Pandemic Sisters. Like I literally those are two of my favorite albums. And I know they're a lot of people's favorite albums. But like Jack's choice of synth and everything on these tracks are stunning, and they were in Midnight's as well. I just think like,
and I think that people forget that he's not just like Midnight's. Midnight's was a new sound for Taylor with the synth and stuff, but like Jack produced August, for example, which has no synth in it and is like very fitting into the folklore vibe. So like I don't think like people just like they have like short-term amnesia or something. Anyway,
no Jack hate in the comments. I think that's it for
this album. I think that's it for the album.
Give my rating. That's it.
Yeah, you have to give your rating. I was gonna say, did you give your rating?
No. So I think this comes in the top 4 albums. I'd say top 4 albums of Taylor's. I'd probably say for this side of the album 8.6. I can't remember what I gave the first track. I keep doing that. First side. But overall I'd say maybe like a 9.1. I think it's if I'm talking about like me. Yeah, because I really this second leg within the production and the storytelling, not because it's so distracted from the original, I think just elevates it so much more, and the production choices are crazy. And the first side boosts it up a lot. I think there was just a lot of like things that I went through previously that I wasn't really sure of how to like go about listening to that. But like now that I've had a wee bit longer with that side as well as this side, it's definitely popped up a lot more.
I also think without the context of the first half, this is like bad, which is what I am like basing it off of, but you're thinking of it differently. And that makes sense. What about the whole album? Like both sides, all 31 tracks. Yeah,
9. So I'd say 8.6 for this side and 9.1 for overall.
For the total.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I get it now. That makes sense. I think that makes sense. If you made it this far in our review, thank you so much for listening. I hope you like both our review last week and this week. We'll have more stuff like this coming up in the future. There's lots of new albums to talk about, so much music stuff that we have not touched because we're still going through this. So slowly but surely we'll get through all of it. But I think what I would like to do, and I haven't ran this by Jack, so he's gonna tell me off, but I think that like there's been a bunch of new albums like Dua Lipa's and Dua Lipa's, for example, and I think we could do we never talked about Beyonce's album. We never talked about Billie Eilish is gonna come out with a new album soon as well. We could do like a little like quick review for each of them instead of a like track by track, and we could have that in like one episode or something. So that is something that we will probably do. We will listen to some new artists. Bear has an EP out that came out this week, so I'm gonna force Jack to listen to it in the future. So if you want to be ahead of it, go look up Bear, BER. She has a new EP called Room for You, so listen to that, and then whenever I do my intro for Jack, you'll already know who she is. So,
I'm excited. I need to do that soon.
Yeah, and I think that's it. But thank you so much for listening, Jack. Anything else?
No, just have a nice night, day, whatever it is. Look after yourself, and thanks for listening.
Bye.